All right, welcome everyone. Thank the North Suburban YMCA in Northbrook, Illinois, where it's raining. That's okay though. All right, my name is Pam and I am the YES facilitator here at the North Suburban YMCA. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to a talk about loneliness in modern times, what it's telling us and how to respond. This talk will be by Marty Fogarty. He will be talking to us today. Loneliness is a modern day epidemic, and it's mostly caused by a frog and pot scenario where we're the frog, but not noticing the incremental changes that form a trap of loneliness about us. The really good news is that loneliness is beatable. We can all take steps to minimize it. We'll get the benefits of minimizing our other issues we face too. So this presentation empowers attendees with a specific protocol to follow that will improve the authentic human connection and overall well-being in our lives. And with that, from Eldersmart, empowering elder well-being, is Marty Fogarty. Yay, Marty!
Thank you very much, Pam. Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's a quick bit of housekeeping and disclaimer. So I'm not a doctor. We're going to talk about loneliness, right? And it has been referred to as an epidemic, but also it's extremely normal, right? So I'm going to talk about it from the perspective of how it is a normal part of the human experience, and that actually there's some very basic things that most of us already know that we can be doing to utilize to get what we can are being offered from the opportunity of the loneliness that we might be facing. All right, so with that, let's get started here. All right, so my number one comment or framework for this is that let's all agree, reflect on your life, and tell me if you agree or not, but life is a series of chapters. There was a time before you went to school, you're out of school, you got a job, you retired or whatever that is. You could take that for any part of your life. It's a series of chapters. And that's crucial to understanding loneliness. Because here's an example of the chapters. There's one chapter there in that line, that's a comfort zone that we have in that chapter. That's normal for us. And then this vertical line here shows the end of that chapter and a new chapter begins, and there's a new normal, right? Again, another chapter ends and another new normal that we're in. And what we do during life is basically we zig and zag through its different chapters. And what we're trying to do is hone into what's normal, right, in each chapter. So chapters can be big or small, they can be intense or mild. We could have several going at once. Chapters could be meals, they could be, a work day, parts of the week. So they're like mini scenarios that we run all the time and that we go through. And the key here is each chapter has its own comfort zone. Loneliness is actually just a comfort zone issue. That's what it is at its core. And we're going to talk about it from that framework. What's cool about talking from that framework is that it opens up the possibilities of working through it. So life's a series of chapters. Each chapter has its own comfort zone, and we are zigging and zagging through these to establish a new comfort zone. So let's get into this comfort zone. This is another representation of what it looks like. This is us here in yellow. We're in our comfort zone. And then these are these chapter changes that life takes us through. And what happens is here, I went from here where I was in my comfort zone, between the lines. I call that the corridor of well-being. I'm in that place. And then there's a change, that line on the left, and now I'm out of that place, right? Because of that change, I'm no longer comfortable. Something is off. So what might this be? This might be when I'm watching the Bears in the first quarter and I'm feeling pretty good, right? then this might be, uh-oh, they're showing up as the same team as always, and I'm no longer happy or comfortable, or that sort of thing. It could be as small as that. It could be the weather. It could be, here I had a job. This is the way I was providing for my family and, contributing to the world. And then here I got downsized and laid off. So there was some sort of change that took me out of the comfort zone. And then I've made some adjustments, right? Life goes on, and I've established, I'm in this new chapter now here in blue, and I've got my center back, I've got my comfort zone back. And then just for fun, the cycle repeats, right? This is what life does. It's constantly us working ourselves back into this grounded comfort zone. So I want to just take a moment. I want to do a short exercise with the comfort zone that I think you're going to like. So identify, a very simple comfort zone sort of experience that we've had. Think of, food or drink. This is a kind of an easy one that isn't too charged. So think of your favorite food. Just bring to mind a memory of you enjoying it when it was at its best. I can think of a certain diner that I go to, and I can think of what I order there, and I can think of the temperature of it, the presentation, sort of the vibe of the place, the size of the portion, the entire atmosphere, right? Just really just reflect on that for a second and bring to mind like just a great food experience, like, your favorite go-to food. Okay. And when you get that, just kind of sit with that feeling and just kind of notice that, right? Where do you feel it? What's it feel like? And this is your comfort zone. Okay. And just feel that, notice that. Okay. And just remember that. And now let's say that chapter ends. Now that chapter ends, how did it end? They lost electricity. Someone spilled something. The guy next to you started blowing smoke at your table. So every chapter ends, right? So that feeling we just were enjoying of that great experience, that comfort zone, that ends, sometimes abruptly, sometimes not. So when it ends abruptly, we might notice it more, right? So whatever existed, whatever this chapter in the middle there no longer exists, and we've been pulled into a new chapter. That's what life does. And so now in this new chapter, maybe that hot drink we had is no longer so hot. Now the restaurant's too loud. The conversation got weird. Just feel that. Feel what that feels like for you. And now go back to that yellow feeling of that last chapter when it was great, and go to where it is when it's not so great. And so what you're going, that the yellow feeling back there was this great feeling of comfort. That was your comfort zone feeling. And then this red feeling, this is discomfort. So it's key for you, and it's actually a lot of fun, and it will really enliven your experience of life if the more we can know where we're at, like, and identify that feeling of comfort versus that discomfort, because that's what life does. It's continually dynamic, changing the variables. So it's tough for us to always stay in that comfort zone. We're by definition going to fall out of it. Eventually, a new feeling of comfort is going to get established. And here you can see it as a thin line over here. And what happens is it strengthens over time, and you're back, you're good again, right? We transition chapter to chapter. And it's the feeling in between those comfort zones that, not comfort or discomfort. That's just our brain adjusting and defining what is the new comfort zone. Like, that's all it is. Okay, so it's really good news. We're playing a game where we're going to get dragged from one chapter to the next. Every chapter, we're going to establish the best comfort zone we can establish. Some are going to be more comfortable than others, but we're always going to make the best of those to the best of our awareness and ability. And the feeling in between those, the feeling of getting knocked around, that's discomfort. So having a model of discomfort is one big step. And two, knowing that the game is to be able to process discomfort and move back into comfort, and that we're actually way more empowered to do that than we knew or have ever been taught. That's the key. So let's look at this again. We're going to combine both those models now. Here we've got the corridor of well-being, right? Over time, you can see it going through the chapters. You can see where I was in the comfort zone, and then the vertical line shows a new chapter happen, and that took me out of the comfort zone. So now I'm, uncomfortable, that I'm experiencing discomfort. And once I identify, that's kind of a key that I'm actually, sometimes, you've been in discomfort and you don't realize it, right? So once I identify I'm in this place of discomfort, now the game actually simplifies, and it's just, hey, let's just reestablish comfort in some small way, and then it'll grow from there. So this is the key way to sort of face discomfort, face this loneliness issue in a lighter way, is to say this is just a game about dealing with circumstances that knock us out of our comfort zone and us reestablishing our footing in some new chapter. So here is this picture I've added in here. That orange line of us zigging and zagging, that's what we're doing. And sometimes we're in the zone, sometimes we're out of the zone. And you've got the too hot, just right, too cold. Goldilocks and the Three Bears pretty much tells us everything we need to know about getting through life, right? Certain things are going to be they're going to be outside our comfort zone in one way, too hot. Other things are going to be outside our comfort zone in another way, too cold, right? And then in the comfort zone itself, that's just right. And it'll last as long as it can until Baby Bear wakes us up and, scares us, and we're in a new chapter called, Run Away from the Bears, right? So that's all it is. It's us zigging, zagging through life, through chapters over time. So the game here, and you can see on the left this blown up image of the individual from discomfort in red to back into the comfort zone. It was hard for me to establish visuals for this part, but there's only, when you see the red self there and he's outside the comfort zone, he's in discomfort. And let's change this to loneliness now. Well, let's say the exact discomfort we're experiencing out there is loneliness, okay? And so the first question is, how is it that we're experiencing loneliness, right? Just because some circumstances changed, that vertical line there, we went from not experiencing loneliness to experiencing it. And there's only three ways that contribute to that change in our experience, right? So where somehow I went from, I wouldn't use the word loneliness to describe where I was. but something happened, and now my interpretation, my understanding of it make me realize that, oh, I'm experiencing loneliness. So there's three aspects to that. There's essentially the self. There's so the self, meaning my self, my identity, my the meaning I give everything, just my internal self. Then there's physical, the physical me. So, and let's go back just to make this differentiation. I'm taking the me and I'm breaking it out to physical me, right? And non-physical. So non-physical would be, that's as part of the self is, emotionally, psychologically, right? Spiritually, that's all part of the self. And the physical me is not the self, right? So I'm not my finger, I'm not my arm. I'm something other than this body that I have, right? So there's the internal realm, let's call it, that's emotional, spiritual, psychological self, right? So let's just leave it at that for now. Then there's the physical self, which is the body. And then there's the, let's call it the social realm, which is everything outside of my physical body and this internal self. So this might be my network of friends or neighbors or work. It might be the things I have, things I own, right? That's all external or social. And if we go before the chapter change in this little image and we say, Marty had these three elements of internal or self, physical, and then external or social realms. And somehow he lined that up differently. Something changed. He gave a meaning to whatever changed, such that a feeling of loneliness took hold. And now that he's lonely. Now he's out of his comfort zone, experiencing this loneliness. So the game becomes, well, how do I work my way back in? Well, there's only three elements, as we said: the internal or self, the physical, and then there's the external or social. So let's just walk through what those are. And there's way more than we could talk about here. But this gives us a nice, way to break it down and process through it. Of what could I do to work my way back? The entire game is that orange arrow of working my way back into well-being. So three aspects to whether our discomfort or our comfort. And that's our interpretation of the internal realm, which is emotional, psychological, spiritual, the physical realm, which is our body, essentially, and our physical health, and social realm is external as well as connections. So let's start with the internal realm. So the number one thing in the internal realm that we have going on is a voice in our head. And this is something that we don't really talk a whole lot about in this world, in our society at least. Most of the folks on this call growing up, this was not something that was widely discussed or very much in the, common culture. Today it is much more so, but we have a voice in our head. We all have a voice in our head, and our self, right, is more than just the speaking voice, right? We have parts of ourself that we can have internal dialogue with over time. And we have parts of ourself that are not acting in a way that's real comforting to us, right? There's this, you stink voice you're not worthy, you're not good enough, no wonder, you messed that up voice that is in our heads all the time. But that's just one of the voices. So if we're here in the red and we're feeling this loneliness of nobody likes you, you've got no friends, etc., the number one thing that we can do, and this is going to be a pattern we're going to see over and over again, it's called a micro transaction. The smallest steps are going to lead to the greatest gains. That's what's really neat about this way of looking at this. And the smallest step we can take on the internal realm is to, let's just engage this voice in my head, right? And far beyond anything I could show here, it would be this resource, thework.com. This is essentially the work of Byron Katie, who has developed a very simple 4-question technique that if you do it on paper initially, it will pretty soon become automatic. And what it helps you do is, basically engage with this voice in your head. It'll change your inner awareness, and you'll know which thoughts are, hijacking you, let's say. It establishes a dialogue internally where you're able to say, wait, that thought, is that true? How do I know that's true? Who would I be? How would I act if that wasn't true? And it allows us to process these thoughts that will otherwise trigger us or overwhelm us. So if you've experienced loneliness, you have this avalanche of thoughts, right? This waterfall of thoughts keep coming out. And when we're in loneliness, 99% of those are these nasty thoughts that we don't want to engage in, or that we want to at least be able to say, that's not a true thought. I'm not going to listen to that. Thework.com is just a great way for you to develop a foothold there, and that alone is just has the power to change your life. So the book is called Loving What Is by Byron Katie, BYRONKATIE. Her website is thework.com. So check that out, and that's a worthwhile thing for you to follow up on. Okay, so that's internally we're talking about, right? Within the self, engaging the voice in my head, that's one step. The other step that's really great internally is this idea of practicing self-compassion. Now, again, in Western culture, we're not real big on practicing self-compassion, or or I would say the practice of self-compassion has sort of been hijacked by the marketing industry, and now practicing self-compassion is sort of sold to us as, yeah, go buy the extra large chocolate shake, it's okay. It's not treat yourself, it's practice this deep compassion for ourselves. And I've got a great resource here. The link itself is a little larger, but I can tell you how to get there. Type in to your search engine UCLA and then MARC, free meditations. And this is a department at UCLA. They've got some wonderful, really helpful, free, very useful meditations. I think I've got a list of them here. So this is just a sample of what they've got. But what I want to point out is these meditations, they're short, they're easy. You can have them on your phone or access them from your phone. There's an app that they have that allows you to access as well. And what's really great is this idea of the body awareness, sound, and breath is wonderful, because for the physical realm, it helps us. Usually, when we're feeling loneliness, we're disconnected from our body. That sort of meditation and breath work brings us back into our body, back into our physical groundedness, and that's a really helpful thing. Same with this body scan one. But I'll tell you, loving kindness and working with difficulties, these two meditations are extremely helpful if you're in the throes of, there's a difficult loneliness situation. And if you're not, they're fabulous as well. And it's 11 minutes. I mean, how bad can it be? It's not, get up early and sit cross-legged for an hour every day. This is just something you can access on the fly, and it's just very helpful. Okay, so now I'm here in part 2. I'm in the physical realm. The first realm was the self, emotional, psychological, spiritual sort of thing. Now we're over here in the physical realm. Well, the physical realm is pretty simple. I mean, we've got to stay hydrated. Like the number one thing we can do other than sleep, I was going to put sleep as number one. But a lot of folks, they just have trouble sleeping. So the number one thing you can do to sleep better is to actually hydrate more through the day. Not all at once, but this would be something to go and just explore on your own. Be interested, be curious, and if you're experiencing loneliness, one of the best the lens you can see it through is curiosity. And what are some things that I can do if emotionally I'm feeling lonely, what can I do physically that might boost my spirit and sort of lead me out of the loneliness? So the body leads the psyche and emotions some of the time, and staying hydrated would be one way. And I would just encourage you, explore that, look into that. I guarantee you, none of us are drinking enough water unless you've already done this research, or you've already had this experience where you've made a shift in your life compared to what we're normally doing. The next one is movement. Again, everybody on this call has experienced that when you wake up in the morning, your movement in the morning is completely different than it was a decade ago, right? 2 decades ago. So there's this, as we age, our movement and awareness of our movement becomes more important. So this is a talk sponsored by the Y. Getting involved in some movement class at the Y, no matter how small it is, will create a cascade effect to other areas of your life. So water and movement, and both of those are going to contribute to better sleep as well. The last piece is this idea of microtransactions. Let's see. The way I want to describe a microtransaction is there is a pattern in the world, and a saying that goes along with it is, small hinges swing big doors, right? Small hinges swing big doors. So the small hinge is the microtransaction. The big door is my ability to have greater resilience and more balance, so I don't get knocked over when something doesn't go right. I'm less likely. It takes a stronger pull to knock me out of my comfort zone. If I can do certain things, certain small things are going to lead to those bigger benefits, right? So the question for you to ask is, and just throughout the day, is what's the smallest, best thing I can do for my well-being right now? I've got this in the physical place. That's nice because we can always ask that question. And me right now, I could say, well, I could sit up straighter. I'm really good at slouching, but hey, you know what? It would be better if I sat up. It would, what's the smallest, best thing I can do right now? And you can ask it for yourself. You can ask it for another person. What's the smallest, best thing I can do for this individual right now? And it might just be, listening better, right? Or get them off that, get them off that topic, right? It might be, hey, let's go for a walk. So, but the idea is if we're asking that smallest best thing, we start to develop an awareness of microtransactions. Again, it contributes to our ability to stay grounded in our comfort zone longer. It expands our comfort zone. All right, now we're in the third realm of the three. Remember, there was the internal and self realm, then there was the physical realm, and now we're in the social or external realm. And the first one we all know, it's the golden rule, right? It's how but the interpretation, the application of it is different. How would I want to be treated, or how would I want to feel right now, right? Well, I'm going to take a small step to help someone else feel how I would want to feel, right? So if I'm going to go to an event and I don't want to go because I'm feeling isolated and I'm disconnected and I'm feeling lonely, I can have this inner dialogue of, well, what is it how would I want to feel? I'd love to feel connected and, grounded and in a happy kind of space. And then I can say, well, great. So the golden rule, do unto others as I wish done unto me, is I've just identified what I wish done unto me. So what can I do for them? How can I make someone else feel the way I would want to feel? And that inner dialogue allows me to develop a way through difficult connection opportunities. Sometimes when we are experiencing loneliness, we get a bit overwhelmed and sort of negative reinforcement. So we're actually going in the wrong direction. And connecting to this golden rule, which is just sort of wired in us all, can help us to reframe a situation, not through the framework that our, you stink voice and the lonely feelings want to frame it, but through something stronger and more powerful. So how do I want to feel right now? How would I want to be treated? Great. What can I do for one of those folks to get them into that direction? What happens is it feeds on itself, and that's the fastest way for me to get what I want. So the game is just authentically treating someone else, trying to get them into the space I would prefer myself to be in. Next is the idea of the lens of curiosity and gratitude. So let's talk about this feeling of loneliness can only happen if I am interpreting either inner dialogue, physical conditions, or external events, external circumstances. I'm interpreting them in a way that leads to feelings of isolation and disconnectedness. So what am I doing that's causing me to interpret this as isolating or disconnectedness? And so in today's world, this whole frog in a pot thing is that we've gone from in essentially two generations, right? Radio is the main way of communicating as a culture, to television, to color television, to cable, right? To the internet, to the phone, to social media. And there's an overwhelm of information and we don't have the skill set to manage it all. And what happens is we are, social animals. We're pack animals. We want to fit in. We want to not feel out, right? Or not part of the pack, or so when we see things, we're digesting in more media and screen time, or less connectedness because everything is turned into an app or electronics, and there's less authentic human communication and human interaction. That will lead us to being more vulnerable for this feeling of discomfort, of loneliness, etc. So way back, when we only had black and white TV, there was enough human interaction and it was authentic human interaction, that we didn't have to go through the extra step of saying, well, I'm going to look at this through gratitude. I'm going to hold the space of curiosity. We just were able to go through it because we were naturally connecting authentically with each other. In today's world, that's not the case. In today's world, everyone age 30 and under has been raised in this computer world, this wireless internet world. Certainly anyone in any adult has a duty to lead by example with prioritizing connecting with authentic human interaction. So the easiest way to do that is through a lens of gratitude and curiosity. So when I'm seeing anything from my neighbor with the new car, or my something on Instagram or Facebook, and those feelings are getting triggered in me, I can hold on and see it through this lens of gratitude or curiosity, and that's going to change the way the meanings I give it, right? And that in turn is going to change what sort of discomfort I'm feeling. So in today's world, we're at a point where screen time and media time is so strong, and technology is so strong. Let's say authentic human communication has not been prioritized. So what we've got to do now is just double down on that and say, well, tech is great, but tech without authentic human communication is not great. And so I'm going to bring authentic human communication wherever I go. So if I'm feeling overwhelmed and lonely, I can commit to, I'm overwhelmed and lonely, but I'm committing to being authentically human. I'm going to commit to have interactions from an authentic human, place. That will actually get me into my comfort zone and broaden my comfort zone faster than anything else I can do. So this is a difficult exercise because you have to be sort of relentless. It doesn't feel real comfortable right away. There's this voice in your head is going to say, yeah, right. It's going to ridicule you for wanting to look through a difficult situation with gratitude. For you to say, well, I don't understand the whole thing, but I'm confident this is part of something better that's occurring. I'm getting an insight here that's going to help me, in a better way. I'm going to be a better parent. I'm going to have better perspective. So all that sort of thing. We've got to be relentless with this simple tool of gratitude and curiosity, and then that's going to include, when I can be curious of, like, interesting, when I spend time on Facebook, I feel like garbage afterwards. What could I do to decrease that feeling of like garbage? Well, maybe I'll decrease my Facebook time. Maybe I'll only look at my phone. I'll have it in the kitchen, and I'm only going to look at it when I'm in the kitchen, so it doesn't interrupt me, when I'm over here reading or with family or something. So curiosity is the first step in setting up whatever new guidelines we need to set up for how we're going to interact with the world. Okay, here's this one is really important for us, because what'll happen is as tech has decreased and authentic human interaction has decreased, fear and vulnerability and those feelings have actually grown in the world. The good news is fear and vulnerability are very thin veneers. There's a great resource of how we can interact with fear and how we can interact with vulnerability to make that just part of the fun, as I say. So being in a place of discomfort and moving into the comfort zone, that's just part of life. You know what I mean? Like it's just what it is. It doesn't have to be, we know it's not going to be all just, bubbles and roses. It's going to take some work. We're going to work through difficulties. Those difficulties unleash and open up certain strengths that we're here to apply and share. So having a better understanding of how should I respond to fear, how should I respond to vulnerability is going to be key. And here's a wonderful resource for this. And my point here also is just society never taught us this, sort of like stiff upper lip, that sort of thing. Or the problem without having a model for it is we will go right to overwhelm and victimhood. So here's the resource. There's a great book. It's called The Tools. It's by Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. You can find it at thetoolsbook.com. That's THETOOLS book.com. They've got a bunch of other sort of tools there that essentially help us maintain our balance and our equilibrium and that builds our facility to get back into the comfort zone and stay in there longer. There's a great documentary about one of these authors. It's called Stutz. It's on Netflix. It's another thing to check out. I think that you'll find this to be extremely helpful. There's a wonderful tool called Reversal of Desire. That's the tool that helps with breaking through fear. So give that a try. I think you'll like that. I guess here's the last piece. When I first created this or thought of this idea of, this presentation, the presentation wound up being very different than what I thought it would be. And I just realized quickly that there's just too much out there. There's just to make, a little half hour, 45-minute presentation meaningful. So I wanted to just go as simple and as personal as I could. Everything I've shared here are things that I personally benefited from. I'm an attorney. I've been practicing 33 years. These are the things that I'm helping my clients with. We help clients through difficult situations where there's no comfort zone for 20 miles, right? When people call a lawyer, there's no comfort zone involved, right? That's actually an act to try to get back towards that comfort zone. So this is essentially the real work we do, is trying to help folks take those small steps to work through the difficulties. And the key is, look, small action every day. We're all connected. We're all part of this fragile web of there's some invisible connectedness that we all share, and we all have a responsibility to. So what we do, how we respond, it matters. I'm not comfortable giving this presentation, but you're not. Though I'm not comfortable giving the presentation, I went beyond my comfort zone because I felt it's necessary. And maybe it doesn't make sense to you, but it helps me articulate it better, right? So I think that it matters. I think that we're all playing out we're all in a rowboat. It's a smaller rowboat than we realize, and it's a very interdependent experience we're having. So I'd say next steps. contact the YMCA, find a class, attend an event, make a suggestion. Check out these links that I share here. Share that with a friend. Give it a try. You know, I would love for you to just make it a game. You know, let's bring this into the common dialogue. I think that that is probably the thing that can make the best impact. And you know, I think it just comes down to this action, this bit of action. So I think you took action by attending this. Thank you for investing that time. I hope it was, you know, at least a little bit valuable or interesting for you. Please follow up on those resources because those are really great. And I'm happy to take any questions that come up as well.
Thank you, Marty. Any questions for Marty right now? If you need to, I can unmute you. All right, well, if you do have questions for Marty, and if you're listening to this video later on, feel free to email us here at the YMCA, and we will connect you with Marty. And to Eldersmart, again, thank you to Marty and Eldersmart for talking to us today about strategies that we can use feeling with the loneliness that is definitely out there. So thank you again.
Cheers. Thanks so much. Bye all.
Yeah. And we look forward to having you again. Talk to us. Yes.
Yep. We'll see you in October.
Yep, October. All right. So this concludes today's session. Today, tomorrow we have a talk tomorrow about simply organize, how to organize your closets and your lives, and your life, and your home. That will be tomorrow, September 20th at 1 p.m. And we will welcome back Marty and Eldersmart in October, on October 24th at 11 a.m. So we look forward to hearing you from again then. And then we'll be talking about change. So feel free to join us. So thank you again for joining us today. You can find this online at nsymca.org/YES. We look forward to talking to you at the next presentation. Thank you again to Eldersmart and Marty.
Thanks all. Bye now.
Bye.